William McKinley Jr. was born January 29, 1843 in Niles, Ohio. He was of English and Scots-Irish descent and was the seventh child of 9 born to William McKinley Sr., a prominent iron manufacturer in the Pennsylvania area, and Nancy Allison McKinley. He was raised a Methodist along with the rest of his family, although his religious beliefs did not deter his ambition to serve in the armed forces during the Civil War. McKinley's family moved from Niles to Poland, Ohio, so that their son could attend better schooling. McKinley enrolled in Allegheny College in Meadville, Pennsylvania, in 1860. He stayed there for a year, but entered the service in 1861, where he would join the side of the Union during the Civil War. He left for Columbus and was put in the 23rd Ohio Infantry, where he would serve under future President Rutherford B. Hayes. Hayes would serve as a mentor to McKinley throughout and after the war. From 1861 to 1865, he saw action at the Second Battle of Bull Run, the Battle of South Mountain, and the Battle of Antietam, which was one of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War. The war had a big impact on the future president's life. Throughout the conflict, McKinley made his way up the ranks from private to his final promotion, a brevet commission as major. After the war, McKinley continued pursuing his education at Albany Law School. After a year of studying, he moved to Canton, Ohio, and set up a small office. He would settle there for the rest of his life, as it was quite the booming town at that time. McKinley fell in love and married Ida Saxton on the 25th of January, 1871. His wife was a prominent figure in encouraging McKinley to pursue law and politics. In that year, McKinley campaigned for the Republican nomination for Ohio's 17th Congressional District and won on a platform that supported a protective tariff. Even before McKinley completed his term in Congress, he met with a delegation of Ohioans urging him to run for governor. Although Ohio's governor had relatively little power, it was a key swing state, so McKinley would play a major role in national politics. McKinley's election as Ohio's governor made some people recognize the possibility that McKinley could, in fact, be sitting in the White House one day. In the election of 1896, McKinley defeated Democratic nominee William J. Bryan by a slim margin of 51% to 46.7%, with McKinley carrying 23 of the states and Bryan 22. With the election in the books, McKinley proved to take on the presidency with the promise of prosperity, protective tariffs, and silver for the nation's money supply. Although he wanted to stay out of foreign interventions with European nations, war was on the horizon. For decades, rebels in Cuba had fought against their Spanish oppressors and had looked for help wherever they could get it from. Many officials in McKinley's cabinet urged the president to declare war with Spain to acquire new territories in the Caribbean and elsewhere, to bolster the United States' own military, and even compete to become a world power. McKinley's time in the Civil War made the president very reluctant to engage in open conflict so quick, but on February 15, 1898, the USS Maine was sunk by a mysterious explosion in Havana Harbor in Cuba, killing 266 people. Although it is now believed to be of internal problems, it did not stop many journalists from making it look as if the Spanish had launched some preemptive strike against the United States. So on the 25th of April, 1898, war with Spain had begun. The war with Spain lasted only 4 months, and it ended in great favor for the United States. The Spanish had turned over control of Cuba, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines over to the States after the Treaty of Paris in 1898. With this conflict behind him, President McKinley was very popular amongst his cabinet and nationwide. He won the re-election in 1900 with his vice president candidate Theodore Roosevelt, who had served as the Assistant Secretary of the Navy and even as a cavalry captain in the Spanish-American War, leading his Rough Riders into the Battle of San Juan Hill. Roosevelt was also the governor of New York once he returned from the war. McKinley's re-election came relatively easy as he defeated former Democratic nominee William J. Bryan by a wider margin this time around. During his second term, he could focus on his main objectives of tariff reform and free silver. Another thing the president was remembered for was his early notion of civil rights towards African Americans. Soon after his second inauguration, the president undertook a 6-week tour of the nation. He traveled by rail to the south, through the southwest, and up the Pacific coast to the east, concluding his trip in Buffalo, New York to the Pan American Exposition. On September 6, when inside the Temple of Music, an anarchist, Leon Czolgosz, approached the president. He had a revolver wrapped around his hand in a white handkerchief as to resemble a broken hand of some sort. As the president was shaking hands with the people, Shulgotz approached the president and shot him twice in the abdomen. The president was rushed to a nearby hospital, but the damage was too severe. He died a week later, and Vice President Theodore Roosevelt was sworn in as the 26th President of the United States, right there in Buffalo, New York.